we do save the best for last. In our last interview of today for the coverage of the World Healthcare Congress, we have Edward Smith here. He's with Hutchinson Traylor, and he's going to talk about how they've really just gotten into the benefits arena and have learned a lot while doing this in the process. Thank you, Edward, for your time today.
Glad to be with you.
Well, you had just mentioned that Hutchinson was really in the line of property and casualty insurance, and now about 15 years ago you got into the healthcare space on the benefits side. That was relatively late, would you agree?
Sure. So Hutchinson Traylor is a 100-year-old firm and long-time property and casualty firm in the Southeast, but I joined about 20 years ago, and it wasn't until 15 years ago we decided to delve into the benefit space. I take that as an advantage. I think it's a positive. Whenever you run into an issue that requires innovation, I think fresh eyes is always a positive.
And what have you seen with those eyes?
Well, a lot of structural issues inside of healthcare that need solutions. My background, I came out of Wake Forest Business School as an analytics guy, a finance guy, and so I went into financial consulting for the banking industry. It wasn't until joining Hutchinson Traylor and actually seeing at that time the impending Affordable Care Act come down the pike, I knew there would be chaos, and wherever there's chaos, there's a need for guidance. And so I've tried to provide that guidance. I kind of turned my analytical mind toward tearing apart healthcare. And then I got sick. And so a little bit of a twist in the story there. Had a rare tumor in my neck. I went on about a 3-year adventure of multiple diagnoses, and what I had was a really rare tumor, but I also have my wife is a very rare person. She's a clinician. She's got her doctorate. She was a fierce advocate. She has just a wonderful mind for medical research, and I realized through that process that I was so much better off than any of the employees or patients that I was consulting with. Had I accepted the 4th diagnosis that I had, I would have had surgery at one of the premier teaching hospitals in the Southeast, and I most certainly wouldn't be talking to you today because of the impairments of that surgery. But through my wife's guidance and through really some dumb luck, I was blessed with a wonderful outcome. One that I would venture to say 99% of people would not have been able to achieve or obtain. And so that's when this really became missional for me. I went back to work, diving deeper and deeper into healthcare, and as I did, I began to discover different strategies and concepts that would lead patients to better medical outcomes and reduce cost. And fortunately, along the way, I had a lot of great clients who not only listened to my guidance, but actually stood shoulder to shoulder with me. Just as an example, we implemented our first reference-based pricing program in 2007. So after a decade of kind of testing these theories and these strategies that we've implemented with employers, have some good solid outcomes data. So it's been a really rewarding experience. But that's how I
came to this.
Wandered into benefits consulting, and I am fairly new relative to history at least.
But one might describe you as probably one of the more experienced in this area because you've gone through this personally and you bring a very interesting and very unique perspective and approach to this. What do you think your experience has taught you about what other people need in their benefits package?
Sure. Well, I think there's a great disparity right now between employers. There are employers who have high performance health plans, those that are who have a population health, their employees are well and their population health is wonderful, and they're getting, their costs are half the national benchmark. And then there are employers that are really languishing. And I think that really the difference in those two, as best I can tell, is really a matter of cynicism. It's not apathy. Every employer, every purchaser knows that healthcare costs are raging out of control, right? But those who have kind of allowed themselves to throw up their hands and given in to cynicism are not having very good experiences. Cynicism tends to take away our creativity and our receptiveness. And so that's kind of how I feel my role is to be a messenger, a guide in this space, showing employers, the ultimate purchasers of healthcare, that there's a better path. And employers really across the country are blazing that path, hundreds of employers across the country in various different places. And you really can't determine who those are relative to size, because they're all sizes, or industry sector, or even region of the country.
Are the employers that you work with really breaking down barriers and disrupting what maybe the status quo to build new things right now? I mean, are you seeing that, or is there a lack of courage on that front?
I think there are pockets of courage and pockets of innovation. And just to kind of illustrate my point about that being across various demographics, let me give you the example of a 175 private nonprofit employer. Now, you would think an employer in that particular size category would be having difficulty with their healthcare spend. Most employers in the 100 to 200 range are still fully insured. You would think that a private nonprofit would have a mountain of cash in reserve, and they might not be interested in innovation in healthcare spend. But this particular one that I have in mind has been self-funded for over 15 years. 7 years ago, they put in and implemented an on-site clinic in collaboration with other neighborhood employers, and took back control of their primary care spend. 5 years ago, they negotiated direct contracts with local healthcare providers, began auditing those contracts, as well as paying out-of-network providers on a Medicare multiple. And 2 years ago, they addressed their RX spend and put in our transparent RX platform. And so the results of all of that work for this 175 employee company is their medical spends running 39% of the Treven MedStat benchmark, and their medical plus pharmaceutical spends running about 44% of that. So here you have 175 employee private nonprofit, and they're outperforming by half, which is quite a competitive advantage in their space, and they didn't have to have 5,000 employees to get that done.
Wow. What are some of the other things you are telling people that they should listen to today? Well, you're at this meeting, you were here briefly, but what are things that you are letting people know that they should take away with them?
I think innovative, transparent advisors are something that employers need to seek out regardless of size. There are a lot of trends that speakers at the conference are talking about: medical reference-based pricing. I did a session on captives, and in the process of currently building a community captive, whereby we can give these mid-range employers, the 50 to 500, a platform to come together and aggregate their group purchasing power and begin to build an asset inside the community. So I think there's plenty of innovation out there. There are plenty of employers who are being successful in the healthcare space, but employers oftentimes don't have the resources to understand or obtain those strategies and solutions. And unfortunately, for my profession, a lot of them don't have guides and benefit consultants that are bringing that innovation to them. So.
Okay. And do you believe that maybe there should be a credentialing process for consultants to make sure that everyone is up to speed on the best information out there?
I think it's a great idea, and we actually spent our morning this morning talking about that very thing. I don't believe that the broker or consultant community is capable of credentialing themselves. I think that'll have to be driven from employers or some objective third party. There's just too many perverse incentives. You know, when an employer sits down with all his healthcare relationships, the consultant, the hospital, the physicians, the insurance carriers, the PBMs, everyone at the table wants it to cost the employer more money, and each one of them are in a position to make that happen.
Right.
So the incentives as long as the incentives are that perverse, there will have to be an
Yeah.
objective party in there to hold accountable the advisors to the employers.
Okay, well, Edward, I thank you so much for sharing your thoughts.
It's been a pleasure talking with you.
All right.
Thanks.
And I'm Mabel Jong. Thank you for watching. We're going to have more content for you. Stay tuned.